The Silver Dragon Queen called me to her room, just to write a test paper with her. Well, I calmly accepted the challenge. In the end, my score turned out to be higher than hers. Unwilling to admit defeat, the Silver Dragon Queen asked me to write the test paper with her. After a week of test practice, the average score between the Silver Dragon Queen and me was not far apart. To express her gratitude, she unexpectedly invited me to take a shower in her bathroom. Just as I was enjoying a relaxing soak, the Silver Dragon Queen walked in. Roswitha walked over to Leon in a purple halter nightgown with a graceful stride. She didn't say what she was going to do, just calmly asked him the location. "Where do you want to do it? The living room or the balcony?" Leon froze for a moment when he heard Roswitha ask him that. His eyes nervously looked towards the balcony behind him. As it was nighttime, there was silence outside and no sound. He stuttered and answered Roswitha. "On the balcony. It's not good, is it? It's embarrassing to be seen." At this moment, Roswitha did not notice what Leon was thinking in his heart. She turned around and walked towards the dressing table, taking something from it and placing it in her hand. Then she set up a location for Leon. "Well, let's do it in the living room. It's the same wherever we do it anyway." Leon knew he couldn't escape tonight. He let out a long sigh, closed his eyes, and then fell heavily onto the sofa. "Come on." He seemed mentally prepared and suddenly said it out loud to Roswitha. Roswitha had already walked to the sofa with a roll of pink stuff. She saw Leon lying on the sofa with his eyes closed in a strange pose. She hadn't even said what she was going to do next. She was puzzled by his behavior. "What are you doing?" Upon hearing her questioning him in such a way, Leon suddenly opened his eyes and realized that Roswitha was not going to do anything strange with him now. He was a little surprised, and his face instantly flushed with embarrassment. "What? Don't you want that?" Roswitha realized that Leon thought he was coming to her room to do another thing with her. She sat on the sofa next to Leon, holding something in one hand and her eyes fixed on him with a playful smile. "Mr. Casmid, you are very horny. But tonight is not suitable. Let's reschedule." It seems that Leon really misunderstood what Roswitha said just now. Then, Roswitha spread out a stack of paper that had been rolled up in her hand on the table. Leon pretended to cough to conceal his embarrassment, and sat up from the sofa, looking at the stack of paper on the table and asking Roswitha, "What is this?" Roswitha replied him, "These are the test questions from the previous assessment of viviparous families by the St. Heath Academy. The questions in the exam paper are related to lifestyle habits, personalities, and experiences between partners." Leon picked up an exam paper and carefully looked at the questions on it while listening to Roswitha's explanation. This thick stack of things was not something else, but a set of exam papers. She looked at Leon seriously, shook the test paper in her hand, and continued to explain. "We need to prepare the answers in advance to avoid not being able to answer later and affecting Noah's admission evaluation." Leon quickly finished reading all the questions with his exam paper in hand and spoke with a look of disgust. "Isn't this just some boring question in the tacit understanding game between couples? The test questions first provide these questions. First, what is your partner's favorite color? Second, what is a phrase that your partner often says? Third, where was the first date? Fourth, which SF light novel does your partner like to read? Wait, is there something else that's not part of the exam that got in? Leon lifted his head and looked at Roswitha, asking the first question. What color do you like? Roswitha also picked up a test paper from the table and looked at the questions on it. Black. How about you? She seemed to say the answer without hesitation. Silvery. Leon also quickly gave his answer. After hearing each other's answers, Leon and Roswitha looked up expressionlessly at each other's hair color. They suddenly found that the color they said was exactly the same as each other's hair color. For a moment, they fell silent. However, they quickly turned their heads and shifted their gaze. Both of them had a suspicious blush on their faces, looking a bit embarrassed. They don't seem to want to admit that this is a fact. Roswitha spoke first. Tisk, it's just a coincidence. Leon immediately replied to her. That's right, it's just a coincidence. After the little interlude, both Roswitha and Leon picked up their pens and wrote their test papers carefully. Roswitha held a pen and wrote as she spoke to Leon. Anyway, let's first test our level of understanding of each other. Leon also furrowed his brow, pondering the answer while replying to her. Okay. Just as they were struggling to think about the answer to the test questions, two moths flew near the candle. This also seemed to imply that Roswitha and Leon were going through the test that the test questions brought them. After some time, they both finished writing the test papers. Leon began by correcting Roswitha's exam paper first. I've corrected exam paper. Immediately afterwards, Roswitha also corrected Leon's exam paper. On the table were the exam papers they had just finished writing. The score on Leon's exam paper is 58 points, and the score on Roswitha's exam paper is 45 points. Leon proudly pointed at his score and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Haha! My score is higher than yours. So it seems that I know the queen better. Roswitha saw that her score was lower than Leon's, and she was somewhat dissatisfied, but she couldn't say anything to refute him. She picked up the test paper written by Leon, carefully examined the questions he answered correctly. What she didn't expect was that Leon knew some of the little habits in her life like the back of his hand. She silently thought in her heart, I didn't expect him to even notice my favorite sitting position, the most comfortable way to place my tail, and other small habits. He observes me very carefully in normal times. Roswitha looked again at some of the questions on the paper that had red crosses drawn on them. The parts that were not answered correctly are all in the area of guessing my thoughts. Has your partner ever been particularly disappointed with you in something? Leon wrote a very negative answer below this question. She must have been particularly disappointed in me. She put down her exam paper, crossed her hands in front of her chest, closed her eyes, and calmly analyzed her past habits. I have always been accustomed to keeping things bottled up in my heart and never revealing them to others. It's normal for him to guess wrong. As the queen in charge of the Dragon clan, Roswitha had a lot of responsibilities on her shoulders, so there wasn't really anyone with whom she could talk about her heart. Leon didn't raise his head, still looking intently at the test paper. After experiencing so many things with Leon, Roswitha realized that she might be able to try to confide in him about her feelings. She opened her eyes and secretly looked at Leon. Maybe this person. I can. At that moment, Leon suddenly felt Roswitha staring at him closely, seemingly exuding an aura of discontent. He looked nervously at Roswitha and thought silently in his mind. She has been staring at me since just now. Is it because I scored higher than her that she held a grudge against me? Roswitha suddenly felt a warmth coming from her shoulder. Her eyes looked down and found that it was Leon's hand on her shoulder. He walked over from the nearby sofa at some point, and naturally sat on the sofa where she was sitting. In order to break the stiff atmosphere just now, Leon approached her and confidently patted her shoulder to comfort her. Ahaha, it's normal that we haven't been together for too long and can't get high scores in a short period of time. Then, he looked at Roswitha and gave her a relaxed smile. For Noah, please make an effort to get to know me better. This smile made her feel like her heart was suddenly hit by something. Looking at Leon's smile, Roswitha's face turned slightly red. She slightly widened her eyes and lowered her eyebrows, looking as if she had been moved by Leon's smile. Roswitha realized that she couldn't show such an expression in front of him. She turned her head and slapped the exam paper she was holding hard in Leon's face, not wanting him to see her now. Stop talking nonsense. Write down your correct answer quickly. Leon was puzzled by such sudden behavior on her part. He then felt his face being covered by paper, even with a little pain accompanying his face. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. He hastily removed the paper from his face and found that it was his own exam paper. Both of them wrote the correct answers to each other's test papers. Leon found one of the questions on his test paper, and Roswitha drew a red cross next to it. He said to her in surprise, "By the way, did you write this question incorrectly? Have you never been disappointed in me?" Roswitha answered calmly, "No, if I have to say it. It's just that there were too few black dragon bolas refined last time." Leon was somewhat dissatisfied when he heard her answer like this. He thought she looked down on him. "Bah! Then I will eat black dragon bolas as a meal in the future. Don't regret it." Roswitha gave a gentle smile and refuted, "I look forward to it." On the night before the family examination, Leon and Roswitha were still writing exam papers in Roswitha's room. For the next day's examination, they were not willing to lag behind. Before long, they had already corrected all the test papers they had written tonight as well. Leon packed up the test papers on the table, looked at the scores on the papers, and said to Roswitha with a satisfied face, "Well, not bad. After a week of hard work, our average score on the test questions can also reach over 80 points. If we perform normally, there will be no problem with the family assessment." Roswitha instantly lay on the table. She frowned tightly, looked tired, and her voice was a bit weak. As the Silver Dragon Queen, she also felt for the first time that an exam could make her so mentally exhausted. It was so late, Leon didn't want to disturb Roswitha's rest. After finishing exam papers, he stood up and prepared to walk towards the door of the room. He looked at Roswitha. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first." Just as he was about to lift his foot, Roswitha grabbed his hem and stopped him. "Wait." Leon looked back at her suspiciously, wondering if there was anything else she needed to tell him. She raised her head and pointed to the bathroom in her room, saying seriously, "My bathroom has a bathtub. You can take a shower and then go back." Leon was stunned when he heard Roswitha's words. He slightly widened his eyes and mouth, stuttering, "Take a shower? In your room?" Seeing Leon still standing there in a daze, Roswitha directly pushed him towards the bathroom with her hands. "Go inside! Hurry up!" Leon was still confused. He looked back at her while being pushed by her, wanting to ask her what was going on. But soon, the bathroom door was closed by her. Leon had no choice but to obediently take a shower in the bathroom. He put hot water in the bathtub, took off his clothes, and thought about the strange behavior of Roswitha just now. Why does she insist on letting me take a shower here? Is she having some bad ideas? He sighed and thought about recent events again. But these days she has been nervous because of the entrance exam. Is she okay? The bathtub is already filled with hot water. Leon also stopped continuing to think about what had just happened. He lay directly in the bathtub, letting the hot water run over his body. Anyway, just enjoy it for now. Taking a hot bath is indeed the best way to relieve fatigue. He felt the fatigue all over his body relieved. Leon closed his eyes happily, enjoying the comfortable feeling brought by the hot water. He said contentedly, "Ah, it feels comfortable now." Just as Leon was about to continue enjoying his bath alone, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Roswitha walked in with a smile on her face. She was wrapped in a bath towel all over her body, with her hair curled up, and looked like she was coming in to take a shower. The bath towel wrapped around her graceful body curves, making her look even more alluring. Leon was somewhat surprised by Roswitha's sudden intrusion. "Roswitha?" At this moment, the dragon mark on Roswitha's chest was emitting a purple glow. Its radiance seemed to indicate that the body could no longer suppress its excitement. She spoke while lifting a strand of hair behind her ear. "I have accumulated a lot of pressure these days, so I want to." Leon's face turned very bad as soon as he heard Roswitha's words. He instantly felt something was wrong. He silently said in his heart, "She still has to do it." Leon looked at his chest and sure enough, his dragon mark also lit up. He suddenly sat up and expressed his incomprehension towards Roswitha's behavior. "If you're under a lot of pressure, why are you putting pressure on me?" Roswitha gave him a faint smile, revealing a triumphant expression, as if this action had been planned beforehand. "If I transmit the pressure to you, I can get a release, don't I?" Leon nervously stepped back, but after all, it was in the bathtub, and there was nowhere else he could step back. While walking towards Leon, Roswitha boldly unwrapped the towel from her body. "Besides, didn't you come here with this mindset a few days ago?" Leon pursed his lips, turned his head to one side, and for a moment didn't know what to say to refute her. He recalled the last time he did think that. Roswitha came to him to help her release stress. Before Leon could react, Roswitha had already stepped into the bathtub, and pressed her body tightly against him. The water in the bathtub also overflowed some due to the entry of her. Leon's chest was hit by her twin peaks, leaving him somewhat at a loss. Roswitha touched Leon's chest with her hand, lifted her head, and said to him with a look of enjoyment, "You can't escape, Leon. Just surrender." So, the voices of the two and the sound of water echoed throughout the bathroom.
Please remember to click on the avatar to subscribe to me, and turn on the small bell. Wait a moment, please. I have already opened an Instagram account. Welcome everyone to follow my Instagram account. Send me a screenshot of your follow page via private message on Instagram, and you can get the wallpaper of Shut Up Evil Dragon for free. I also released a new comic sharing video last week, hoping that everyone can leave a message there and provide your valuable opinions. The video link is in the comments section. Thank you for your support.